Hi everyone, it is the ghosts of Fiona's hands, just not my body, just my hands. Ooh. So today I'm going to be showing you how I made this O-ring PVC choker. These are really popular right now. I really wanted a necklace like this, but all the ones I saw in store were either really tiny like rings, and to be honest, I would even prefer a bigger ring than this. I wanted it to be really kind of extra, but this is the biggest one I could find. Or if I ordered it from online, it would take like a month to get to me, and I'm impatient. When I order something, I want it now. A lot of these pieces you can kind of switch around yourself to however sizing or whatever you feel like. So to make this choker here, you're going to need some sort of material. I'm using plastic PVC vinyl. I got this at my local fabric store. It's really cheap actually. I think it was like $6 or $12 a meter. I know I just doubled that in price, but in fabric it's really not bad at all. And you only need a little bit of it. You can use whatever kind. You can use PVC, you can use fake leather, but keep in mind that if you do use different materials, like for example fake leather, you're going to need a special kind of needle, and with this stuff you don't. I have a pair of scissors here, preferably not a really nice pair of scissors like your favorite pair of fabric scissors, because you are going to be using it to cut the PVC, and I just don't know if the PVC would damage your nice scissors in any way. So I'm just going to be using plain old scissors that cut nicely. I have the O-rings here. I got this at my local fabric store as well. Again, whatever size you want them to be. This is the largest one I could find, or you could go smaller. You're going to need half semicircles. There we go. And you're going to need some sort of clasp. Again, I'm using the clasp that I had already found. I just bought another one. So however you feel like attaching it, but these are all the things. And of course, a measuring tape. So step one is you're gonna wanna measure your neck. Here I have measured 13 inches, and just for extra wiggle room and seam allowance, I'm going to make it 14 inches. You rather have it a little bit looser than you're choking yourself. I know that I want the choker to be 14 inches or 13 inches long, but an extra inch for seam allowance, so I'm going to be cutting it 14 inches long. And the semicircle that I have picked really dictates how wide I want it to be. So in my case, I'm going to be making mine about 3/4 of an inch wide. So 14 inches this way and 3/4 this way. But once again, I'm going to be making mine 2.5 inches wide. So here is the base for my choker, and I'm going to be using the shiny side as the side facing out, so the right side. Okay, so now I'm going to be folding it in half, as so, and tucking in the raw edges on both sides underneath like this, and doing it all the way around so that it has a clean finish. And I'm going to be doing a top stitch on both sides to hold it in place. Obviously you can't iron this fabric, so that's why I do suggest doing a top stitch on either side, because it really holds it in down. It doesn't give it that kind of like gross poofy effect. But when working with PVC, here is the kicker. You can't use any needles to hold it in place because it's plastic. So if you stick a needle into this thing, the hole doesn't disappear or kind of repair itself like the fibers do in regular fabric. The hole is forever there. So my little trick, and you can buy certain clasps for these that are made for this, but I use just bulldog clips or alligator clips, whatever you want to call them, that you can find at your local like Staples or I don't know, like stationery store. So that way I can hold down the PVC into place without puncturing holes into it and ruining it. So you just want to make sure that it's pretty even all throughout so that you don't have like a wavy, curvy looking choker necklace. Alrighty, now it looks like some weird whip torture device. And now we're gonna start sewing. Okay, so now there are a few things you need to know before you start sewing with PVC. So first of all, you can buy special feet to work with PVC, but there is a cheaper alternative trick I have used, and I can guarantee you most likely have this at home, and if not, you can find it at the dollar store. In frame. Scotch tape, plain old matte Scotch tape. No, nothing super fancy. What you need to do is just take a tiny little piece of Scotch tape, which I think I'm almost out of Scotch tape. Just enough to cover the bottom of your foot, and tape it on like so. Don't worry about puncturing a hole. The sewing needle will do that for you. So the reason why you need to do this, or either get a special foot when working with PVC, is because the PVC is sticky. So if you sew with just a regular foot with no sort of Scotch tape or anything like that, it's going to stick and can kind of mess up your sewing as you go along. So the Scotch tape provides like a smooth sliding surface that makes it able to just glide along the kind of sticky plastic PVC. So the next thing when working with PVC is you need to work with a wider stitch. So here I'm going to just switch it to my widest stitch here, or close enough to the widest stitch. Actually, I'll do that one. I hate working with really wide stitches. It makes me nervous for some reason. Is because if the stitches are too close together, that means that the needle is poking holes into the fabric really close together, obviously, because that's what a smaller stitch means. But that also means that you have a larger chance of the PVC ripping. So working with the wider stitch lessens the chance of it just breaking. Oh, and I forgot to mention, you don't need any sort of special needle. In fact, you don't want a really large needle like a leather needle or anything, because it'll just create larger holes in the PVC. You want to try and sew as close to the edge as possible on both sides. So place your foot down, and again, working really slowly, kind of help it glide through it first. And for here, when you're doing the edges, you can just place the needle in, lift the foot up, turn it around, and then place the foot back down and keep going. And now I'm going to do the other side as close to the edge as possible. Okay, so now here is your base for the PVC for your choker. So now comes this little middle bit here, which is essentially going to hold the O and this little half circle that connects the O as well. So this is just a little tiny rectangular double folded piece of PVC. You kind of want to make it correspondent in size to the width of your choker. So here my choker is about an inch wide, so I made the little rectangular bit an inch wide as well, or you can make it smaller if you want that effect. It's completely up to you. You can also lay it completely flat against the choker, but I kind of wanted to give it a little bit more character and depth to it, so I kind of sewed it a little closer in, so it kind of created a little visible loop here. So it's going to be 3/4 of an inch wide, and I'm making mine 1.5 inches long. So you have your little piece cut out, and make sure it fits. I'm going to maybe cut it down just a little bit more. Since this is such a tiny piece, I'm not gonna really worry about double folding it and tucking in the edges because that's really tedious. So I'm just gonna create another identical rectangular shape just to layer it up and give it more thickness. So here are my two little rectangular bits, and now I'm just going to carefully sew these two together. Okay, so now that I have my little rectangle bits sewn together, I need to find roughly the center of this choker to where I'm going to position it. So here is roughly the center. I'm going to go ahead and just sew one end this time. So now I have just one side of the rectangle sewn together to the choker. And now I'm going to be adding the semicircle and the ring bit. Huzzah! So yeah, these ones are just 20mm D-rings. And two of them cost me $1.90 Canadian, so they are relatively very cheap. So now you're going to kind of pull apart your O a little bit. See how there's, I don't know why I'm doing that. See how there's like a little opening here, and you're gonna want to slip the O onto the ring here. You may have to wrestle it or get a stronger parental supervision unit or person. Okay, there we go. I got it. Now you're just gonna slip the D. That sounds so weird. I can't call it a D ring. I like the semicircle ring better. So now you're gonna slip the semicircle ring onto the rectangle bit like this, and you're going to sew the other side down. So there is part of your choker on its way. Ta-da! Now you have the O-ring all attached. So now we just have to attach the little end bits, which are going to hold your choker together, and you're almost done. As I said earlier, what kind of clasps you want to use for the back is really up to you. Keep in mind though that if you're working with PVC like I am, also if you're wondering why I use PVC, I already had this material lying around my house from a previous project, so I didn't have to go out of my way to buy it. Depending on what material you're using, if you are using PVC like myself, you do want to keep in mind how you're going to clasp the back of it together. So in a previous attempt, I did use snaps, but it sounds like a great idea, and it did at first in my head, but when you pull away the snaps from each other, the constant pulling and tugging, and as you can tell, one of the snaps was almost completely off, like from all the constant pulling and tugging of the PVC. I do suggest some sort of like hook and hoop method. Now you're going to attach the semicircle and the bag clip, as they call it. And this is the bad side. So this is the side that's going to be facing your neck and no one's going to see. And then you're going to take the PVC and just fold it over and attach it like this. And now you are done your PVC O-ring choker. So you can easily make these at home, and you can adjust them to however you want instead of having it store-bought. And yeah, it's just kind of a fun crafty thing, and I had some fabric lying around and I was like, why the heck not? So let's try it on and let's see what it looks like. Heck yeah, you bet I'm in my pajamas. And there we are, your own handmade O-ring choker. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Sorry if I'm not the exact best at explaining, or if the filming and lighting and blah 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 blah. I'm using natural light today and it's very gloomy outside. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found it useful. If you make something similar to this or decide to make your own, you can always tag me on Instagram. I would love to see that. My Instagram and all my social media is always down in the description box below. If you have anything else you'd like me to make, as long as it is cost friendly because I'm a broke college kid, leave it down in the description box below. If you have any questions, I will try my best to answer them. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye!